Welcome to the Panic Room.
This is Fantasy Football Almost Daily with your hosts, Paul Charchian, Christian Peterson, Matt Harrison, and Brian Johnson.
It's Wednesday at Fantasy Football Almost Daily, and that means one thing, the Panic Room. Our official game show. The only fantasy football game show in the world that I know of.
Are we talking about election results in the Panic Room? Is that what we're doing?
Well, there's a lot of people panicked about that. We could put Donald Trump America.
I shouldn't even gone there.
But we're not going to do that. There's enough other outlets for that. We're going to stick with 5 guys that fantasy owners are in a panic about. Our 2 contestants, including reigning champion Matt Harrison.
Hi there.
Challenger Brian Johnson, will attempt to convince you whether your level of panic on these 5 guys should be none, some, or acute. It's less about who's right. It's more about how well they construct their arguments. It's a little of both, but more importantly, can you articulate your argument? We begin with Ben Roethlisberger. Looked very rusty last week in a bad game. By the way, tip of the hat to, frankly, me for correctly grading him. We saw all the warning signs for Ben Roethlisberger last week, and we graded him appropriately.
Tip your crown, King.
No.
Good point. You've got a hat. Why, thank you. Do you tip from the front or the back? I thought the tip was.
You can't.
Tips more down.
Grab here.
Well, no, just hair.
It doesn't have a brim.
No, it is a brimless crown. Almost most are.
Yeah.
There is no crown with a brim, I don't think.
You should probably work on that.
Just 2 passing touchdowns in his last 3 home games. We know the home road splits for Ben Roethlisberger. It's almost always legit. The appropriate level of panic for Ben Roethlisberger, our reigning champion, gets to go first as always. Matt, what do you got?
Yes, I have none for Ben Roethlisberger. Let me tell you a little bit why. We have a long storied past of Ben Roethlisberger returning from injuries now.
Yeah.
It's now 6 times in his career that he's returned from a multi-week injury. In the first game back from an injury, he always comes back too soon, by the way.
Yeah.
He's averaging 237 yards and 1.5 touchdowns.
That's not good.
In the second game back from the injury, he's
it's averaging the blow-up game.
330 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a huge offense. He's got maybe the best wide receiver in the league, and he's going to bounce back this week. So I'm feeling no panic on Ben Roethlisberger, very confident in his prospects.
Okay. Brian, some, none, or acute levels of panic?
My signature letter, N.
It's so lazy you can't even write
None.
the other 3 letters? Come on.
He doesn't want to win.
I like my Wednesdays off. But I'm going to try, even though you pretty much said everything I was going to say. Yeah. History showed that he wasn't going to have a good game against Baltimore. Mm-hmm. In the return games, he's been bad, and he's had a bad history in Baltimore as well. So, but he still managed two scores, 1 throwing, 1 rushing. So the rushing shows that his knee is okay. Mm-hmm. No setbacks suffered. And all I can really add is the schedule is okay, despite the 4 road games you mentioned. Dallas this week, I'm not so sure how healthy their secondary is as opposed to last week. Yeah. And at Cleveland, plus matchup. At Indy, plus. New York Giants, neutral to bad. At Buffalo, neutral. And then at Cincy, which is a pretty good matchup this week. So his schedule isn't super scary. He's got Antonio Brown. He's got Le'Veon Bell. Ladarius Green is coming back soon, hopefully, which adds another weapon. So I got none. No panic on Roethlisberger.
I think you both gave the right answer. And part of it is just knowing who he is and accepting the fact that in these road games, your other quarterback on roster might be a better play. I mean, that's just the reality of who he is. But I think Matt hit most of the salient points right off the bat, and it didn't leave a lot on the table for you, unfortunately. First star goes to the reigning champion.
It's good to be king.
Christine Michael, 5 carries for 1 yard. Thankfully, a touchdown last week, but the overall trend for Christine Michael is very negative, averaging just 3.2 yards per carry over the last 5 weeks. Bad offensive line, certainly part of it, but that's not the whole story, is it, guys? Appropriate level of panic on Christine Michael. Is it none, some, or acute? Challenger, Brian.
Acute. So Seattle's O-line, awful like you said. Football Outsiders has a stuffed ranking, meaning how often the running back is hit behind the line of scrimmage. They are dead last in that, and that's not a good thing. That's a very bad thing. So Michael is a good runner, but he's got nowhere to go. He's only caught one pass over the last 2 games. He had 11 catches in his 3 games prior to that.
No, great point.
CJ Prosise has kind of taken that work from him, so
has.
that hurts. Thomas Rawls is coming back. He should steal a little bit of carries. Michael should stay the starter. Russell Wilson looks more mobile, so he's running more now, or should be, which is only going to hurt Michael more. So I'm acutely worried, but it all revolves around that line for the most part. But, yeah, I'm worried. Sell if you can.
All right. Well, if you can right now,
Yeah.
it'd be tough.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am also acutely worried about Kristen Michael for most of the same points that Brian had, although the one thing that I will add in is if there are people still looking at this Seattle running game as a possible good outcome, they might have the worst fantasy playoff schedule of any team out there. They get Green Bay in Week 14.
Number 1 against the run right now.
They get the Rams in Week 15, and the Rams have been very good against fantasy running backs, and then Arizona in Week 16.
Yeah, currently number 5 against the rush.
Yeah, it's just an absolutely brutal schedule. We all know the offensive line's bad. We all know Tommy Rawls is coming back.
Tommy, as his friends call him.
Tommy Rawls, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all know he's coming back. It's just bad news for Kristen Michael and the whole Seahawks running game right now.
I love all the points you just made, but your analysis was limited mostly to schedule because Brian didn't leave you much, and he had all the key salient points. Star to the challenger, Brian Johnson.
We gave good advice to the people. That's all that matters.
true.
High
You
five.
did?
Yeah.
All right.
We can do this together, America.
You're unifying America right here in the
That's
panic
That's
room.
how we roll.
Next up, Devontae Booker. Presumed that with C.J. Anderson out, everything was going to tilt towards Devontae Booker getting the vast majority of the work and being super successful behind a run-first offense. But it hasn't worked out that way at all through a few games. Devontae Booker's appropriate level of panic. Is it none, some, or acute? We go back to our champion, Matt.
I have some as my answer, and my microphone's deciding to leave at the same time. Booker was involved in the offense when C.J. Anderson was present, as we all know. It wasn't a true timeshare, but Booker had his little wedge of carries.
Right.
By all accounts, the coaching staff thought C.J. Anderson was a better runner. He was the lead back. So now we have a less talented runner, also with the same coaching staff, and he's supposed to just take over C.J. Anderson's carries. I think that means that we're probably looking at more of a 50-50 split with Capri Bibbs, especially since Booker is running poorly. And one of the things that I am worried about is the schedule doesn't. He's got a chance to get it right this week against New Orleans.
Everybody gets it right against New Orleans.
And that's
Juwan Harris got it right against New Orleans.
Really, that's one of the reasons that it's some and not acutely worried. But after that, he gets a bye week. Obviously, you're not starting him there. He gets Kansas City in Week 12 and 16. The Chiefs haven't allowed a running back score in 5 weeks. Jacksonville is in Week 13. They've held running backs to 88 or fewer yards in 6 of 8 games. Tennessee, who's been better against the run.
No,
than
they've been
the
good
pass.
against the run all year.
And then the Patriots, who at any given time could be up by 20 points, rendering the running game useless. So the schedule doesn't favor Devontae Booker besides this week. So what you hope for, a huge game against New Orleans. Sell. That's why it's some level of panic. So hang on to him this week.
Excellent
Let's get
schedule
out.
analysis. What
Yeah.
can you and what is the appropriate level of your panic?
I'm acute,
Acute?
for kind of all the same reasons. I would have some concern if I was confident he would get the lion's share of the carries this week against the porous Saints defense, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And if you were of the thinking that Booker was an RB1 or RB2 a couple weeks ago, for the record, I was not on the radio.
Good for you.
Yep, very good for me. What was I going to say? If you were thinking that, you were wrong. So you have to be very worried.
Thanks for that insightful analysis there.
Denver.
I was right. You were wrong.
You were all wrong.
Hey, that's what CP got to do last week. I watched. But since the start of last year, it's been kind of a running back by committee in Denver, regardless of who the backs were. It's worked out well for them for the most part. They won the Super Bowl. They're not in first place anymore, but they're in the playoff hunt. So Capri Bibbs is going to steal touches, and it's going to be a timeshare. And Bibbs showed explosiveness last week. He could be the better running back. So I am acutely worried because I don't think he'll see Booker more than 15 touches this week. He's not going to put up a big box score. He's going to be tough
Not
to
even
trade.
this week against the Saints?
Well, maybe. It's not the Niners. It is the Saints. Saints are little
Like,
better.
It's 31
same.
versus 32 in terms of running back.
If you were banking on Booker to be your RB1 or RB2 for the rest of the year, you should be acutely worried because it's not going to happen. That was an awful argument, I know.
that was an awful argument.
I'm going to just write down the
Yeah,
star
take
here.
the star. You don't even have your star on your board.
Yeah.
You're so lazy you can't write out the full.
I'm trying to
word
save the company money,
on ink.
Ink is
Thank you.
expensive.
This is probably a good time for us to take a break so Brian can put a star on his board.
Panic Room contestant number 4 is Brandon Marshall. Now, it goes without saying, his quarterback's not doing him any favors. Ryan Fitzpatrick has been straight up bad for most of this year. Now he enters this week's game bad and with a bulky knee. That's never a good combination.
bulky knee?
Bulky.
Oh, it's like big.
Not like the Balkans. Bulky.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
You have a little bit of a cold.
I do have a cold. not a little. I got a full-blown cold. He's got an emotional guy that he can be. Had a bit of an issue on the sidelines last week, although he did not take it out on the field goal net thing. So
No.
there's that.
That's the other New York lead receiver.
That's a good point. Your appropriate level of panic for Brandon Marshall. Acute, none, or some. Brian.
I will go with some.
Some.
At least 8 targets in every game for Marshall. More than half of those games with double-digit targets. 4 red zone targets last week. He's tied for the lead among wide receivers in that category. The opportunities are there. He's certainly drawing more attention now that Eric Decker's been on IR for the last month or so. Quincy Enunwa hasn't stepped up, so we've seen a lot of double teams, which isn't helping his cause. His schedule is a mixed bag moving forward. Rams this week, somewhat neutral. Trumaine Johnson's back, so it's a little tougher for him. But then bye in New England. Those are 2 bad weeks. But then Indy, at San Fran, Miami, 3 good weeks. And then at New England in the championship.
So a mixed bag.
A mixed bag. Ryan Fitzpatrick looks like he'll play. If he goes down, though, I'm very worried because it's Hackenberg or Bryce.
It'll be Bryce Petty.
That's a cute level of concern right there. But it sounds like Fitz is going to play. So for now, it's some for me, but it's borderline acute.
Okay.
It is acute, and I think Brian kind of went over it, and it's not the schedule's a mixed bag. The schedule's bad. If you think about Stu Beard might be out this week, and by the way, since you stopped calling him Stu Beard, that's when his career has gone down the tank.
He didn't earn. I mean, this year I was down on him coming into this season, and so it was a title of endearment.
Did he tweet you in the offseason, like, don't call me Stu Beard anymore,
No.
Charge?
Well, he tweeted me, but not about that. He texts me. He doesn't tweet me. But yes.
A sprained MCL for Fitzpatrick. It could keep him out of Sunday's game, which means Bryce Petty's the quarterback, and you don't want to play that. So you're not starting him against the Rams this week. Then you got to bye. You can't start him there. Then, as Brian said, 3 of the next 5 are against New England twice, and Vontae Davis, which sits in one of those slots in the last 5 weeks. So there's probably 5 weeks that you can't start Brandon Marshall the rest of the way. And Quincy Enunwa, like you said, hasn't done anything since Decker's gone down. There's nobody else to throw to, and it's just not good throwers throwing him the ball. So I'm acutely worried. I'm happy that I traded him last week.
Even though congratulations for you. I don't know how suddenly this has turned into how brilliant we are.
We are brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about that?
America.
Even though you used the phrase "not great thrower," I believe just now, I think you are correct. You made a better case for Acute. If I can't start him 5 games out of the rest of the schedule, what's the point even having him on my roster? I am now officially acutely panicked.
That's right.
On Brandon Marshall. Final guy. That's 3 stars for a
I
champion.
lost. Damn.
You've officially lost, Brian. I think that was secretly your goal all along. You wanted next Wednesday off.
May have been.
Our 5th and final guy, Jarvis Landry, who's only had 1 touchdown all season. He hasn't scored in 5 straight games. And Jay Ajayi's taking a lot of touches away from him as the orientation of the whole offense has gone from pass to run. Let's talk about Jarvis Landry's appropriate level of panic, acute, none, or some. And we begin with Matt Harrison.
It's acute, but at the same time, it's acute because Ryan Tannehill sucks at football. And I've had a long storied past about saying Ryan Tannehill is terrible. Adam Gase finally figured it out and started handing the ball to Jay Ajayi. Tannehill has topped 260 yards 0 times since week 4. That's 5 games. Since that time, he's thrown 3 touchdown passes in those games. Landry could be the best receiver in the league, and we wouldn't even know it because Tannehill can't get him the ball, and they don't trust him to put the ball in the air anymore. So you got to be acutely worried about Jarvis Landry.
Brian.
I agree. Landry was never a big touchdown scorer, only 4 last year. You needed the yards and the receptions from him to be viable, and he's just not getting those with Ajayi in the mix. Miami is currently 27th in passing play percentage. They were 4th last year, so the opportunities just aren't there. They're a run-first offense now, and can't wait to have Wednesday off next week.
You mailed in that last one, didn't you?
No.
Make the panic room
Passing
great again.
play percentage stats. I was looking into it.
That was impressive.
Nice.
All right. Fourth and final star
Thank
for
you.
our champion. Thank you for joining us for the Panic Room. We're here every Wednesday with this very kind of breakdown. Do we know what's on tap tomorrow?
Probably nothing tomorrow.
Probably nothing coming tomorrow.
Yeah, but Friday we will
have
have
our
the
big
big
DFS
DFS
podcast, the much ballyhooed and downloaded.
There is
DFS
super
podcast.
ballyhoo now.
Yes, extra ballyhoo coming on Friday. Stay tuned for that. I may not even be alive on Friday. It's been a good run.
Well,
so thanks. It was
I
good
hope
knowing
you're
you guys.
alive.
I hope so too.
Because I got this weekend off from Fantasy Football Weekly, and if you die, they're
You'd have to
probably
fill in.
calling me in.
You're probably right. All right, we'll talk to you Friday, everybody. Thanks.